Welcome back to Torn Apart, and today we're doing something that we do every couple of weeks and sometimes every couple of months. We're talking about MCU shit. Is it good shit? Is it garbage? Is it digestible shit? Is it that kind of shit that you can put on your bedside table and leave it there for a while, that it's not gonna stink but it's still gonna leave you some interesting memories for the future? Let's find out.
Oh wait, hang on. Assignment is complete.
No! God, please, no! No!
As usual, we're gonna be starting by introducing what the movie is actually about, then we'll go into spoilers, and then we'll actually try to think of what is the future of the MCU. Let's speculate a little bit and see whether it's actually still worth revisiting, whether it's actually still worth your time and money, of course. What is actually Thunderbolts about? Who is it directed from? Let's have a look.
We can't stop him alone. No one can. But we can find a way. Together.
First of all, Thunderbolts is one of those projects where I wasn't really convinced at all at the beginning. It was really clear that we're trying to follow the same vibes of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and also of the most recent animated series Creature Commandos. So I was sitting there being like, this is gonna be like a toned down, incredibly palatable version of those things with characters that we don't really care that much about. Like, as I was going through all of the different plot and character breakdowns of each member of this team, I was sitting there being like, almost every single one of them is coming out of either a spin-off movie, a sequel, or a movie that has performed really badly at the box office or that people just really didn't like. I was sitting there being like, there's no way this movie is gonna be good, but I was actually surprised. It was actually incredibly fun. This is honestly one of the most written MCU movie. I'm not even gonna say the best written, because MCU movies are kind of all over the place. Like, if you just look at the review that I gave you for the new Captain America movie, you can see that sometimes it really feels like the scripts were written by ChatGPT, and that would be a kindness as well, because ChatGPT can actually at least make it sound a little bit well structured, while the MCU movies and series lately have not really been that. It's kind of like highs and lows, and a lot of mediocrity in the middle.
Should have taken the serum.
For people who are not into the MCU as much as I am, unfortunately for me as well, because sometimes it's actually torture to watch these things, I'm gonna give you a little bit of background on each and every member of this team and a little bit of the plot line as well, without spoiling a bit too much, because I feel like the only interesting thing about this film is the plot twists, because otherwise it's not that complicated when you think about it. This actually feels more like a TV series pilot at some points instead of an actual movie when you break it down beat by beat, but it works so well because of its characters and because of its director, who is Jake Schreier, who has worked mainly on dramas, and he's mostly known for directing most of the episodes in the series Beef. And the thing that works with this film is the drama, is basically these characters talking to each other. It's not really just based on the banter and the jokes like most of the other MCU movies or even the Avengers movies. You can really tell that we're really trying to develop these characters as much as possible. Every single one of them gets at least one scene which allows them to develop a little bit more what's going on with them, besides maybe a couple of them. We'll go into the details later on, but let's have a look. Who are these people and why are they teaming up? So Thunderbolts is basically a team of anti-heroes and reformed villains in a high-stakes mission that challenges the loyalties and identities, and they're basically put together by the CIA director Valentina Allegro de Fontaine. Let's start with the most interesting one, which is of course Yelena, who we saw in the Black Widow and is basically Natasha Romanoff's sister, and she's definitely the highlight of this movie. Florence Pugh's performance is actually incredible for an MCU movie, or even just in general. She's 100% dragging this movie on her back, and without her this movie would not work at all. So basically, yeah, the last time that we saw her was not in Black Widow actually, but it was in the series Aoki, because she was basically chasing Okai because she thought he was responsible for the death of her sister, and that's the last time that we saw her, and that was back in 2021. Then we've got Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier. We last saw him in, of course, the movie Captain America 4, but mostly in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier in 2021. That series was actually good when it came to trying to develop his character, and I really do not understand why is he ran for congressman, and apparently he didn't actually like last that long, only a couple of months apparently. It makes no sense. We'll talk about that kind of character stuff a little bit later on. We'll go into details, but just to tell you that he's a congressman, but at the same time he's an action hero as well, and you can tell that he's not really good at politics. Like, he's always grasping for his words. He's always someone who's trying to do things covertly. He's so dedicated to the truth sometimes that he'd rather just punch the bad guy. You can really tell that he's basically not made for this, so I really don't understand why they decided to go in that direction with him. Then we've got John Walker, aka US Agent, who is played by Wyatt Russell, who is actually a really good actor in my opinion. We saw him last time in The Falcon and Winter Soldier in 2021 as well, in the infamous clip where he ended up killing basically someone who he claimed to be a terrorist. You can see it like in a post-credit scene that he gets recruited by Valentina at the end of that series, and I was there being like, I don't really care about this guy. Does anyone care about this guy? And actually he's probably the least interesting person in this movie as well. Then we've got Alexei Shostakov, aka Red Guardian, who is basically Russia's super soldier and Yelena is Natasha's father figure. We last saw him in Black Widow in 2021. He's the comic side relief character of this film, without a doubt. I think he's definitely interesting, mostly because he's one of those people who has gotten the super soldier serum, and he still remained quite fun and upbeat, which is something that we definitely cannot say about Bucky, the new US agent. To be honest, any of the people who got the serum, most of them, like, they're so depressing to watch, and he's not one of them, so I like him at the end of the day. So I was actually happy to see him. He's kind of like the weird character in a James Gunn team. Like, there is always that one weird character who definitely doesn't belong there, but he's too fun to hang around with, so we keep him, you know? Then we've got Antonia Dreykov, aka Taskmaster, who's played by Olga Kurylenko, and we last saw her in Black Widow, where basically she was being manipulated by her father to kill Natasha, if I'm not mistaken. She was not that interesting in that movie, and she was not interesting in this movie either. No spoilers, but there is nothing new about her, and there's a lot of speculations about her character actually, so you probably know already what happens to her at the end of the day. Then we've got Ava Starr, aka Ghost, played by Hannah John Kamen, who was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. operative with quantum instability, and she was last seen in Ant-Man and the Wasp in 2018, and basically her condition was stabilized by Janet Van Dyne, and she's now wearing this suit. If I'm not mistaken, she has to wear it at all times, otherwise she'll break into quantum particles and she'll die. She's okay. She's the one who doesn't really get that much new information about her in this film. Her powers are incredibly cool though, and same goes with her outfit. Maybe there is more to do in the future. For the time being, she's kind of playing like the Black Widow character in the Avengers movie, where she looks cool and that's basically it. There's nothing else to add about her. Then we've got Robert, aka Bob Reynolds, who is playing Sentry. He's played by Louis Pullman, and he's the new addition to this team that we know absolutely nothing about, and yeah, basically he's the new character, and I really enjoyed his performance. Louis Pullman is a really good actor, and I think he's done mostly work in horror movies, if I'm not mistaken, by looking at his filmography, and you could really tell it here as well, because he's got a duality about him that works so well. And the last character that is interesting to look at, well, just because she's appeared in other MCU projects and maybe you need the background on her as well, is Valentina Allegra de Fontaine as well, who is basically playing the covert like CIA agent that we don't like for most of the runtime of the film. We actually go into what she's trying to do later on, because I think this is actually the movie that gets the closest possible to The Boys. I feel like this is a movie that works quite well within the MCU, mostly because it is actually addressing the idea of creating heroes, the marketing around them, and why they're actually so important to Earth right now. They're kind of becoming like the nuclear weapon of the MCU and this universe just in general. The idea that basically we need the Avengers, we need them to exist no matter who they are, because otherwise people are not going to feel safe, and basically it's going to start a lot of instabilities around the world, like basically we saw in Captain America New World Order or Brave New World. I can't remember which of the two titles they ended up going for, but I'm pretty sure that most of the like international conflicts in that movie would not have happened if the US had the Avengers on their side. First of all, I think this is incredibly well shot for an MCU movie. Like, you can barely tell the bad CGI / green screen in most of these scenes, and you can tell there's a lot of practical effects as well. And you can tell also that Florence Pugh, for example, she really fought to get more action sequences to do by herself. And there is one, I think, where we have actually the behind the scenes, the jump that basically she does at the beginning of the film, and honestly it was worth it. Like, it's one of those films that looks really fun, mostly because the action sequences look believable and interesting. And I love when the Thunderbolts are actually fighting each other at some points in the film. You've seen in the trailer, it's not really a spoiler, they actually have their own fighting style, and everything is so well choreographed because everyone is so competent. Like, there is no one who's actually like not good at it. So at the end of the day, it's just beautiful dance that they do with each other, but using different power skills and power sets, and it's actually quite interesting. Something we can criticize about Thunderbolts is that their power sets are not actually that varied. Like, most of them, they're actually punching and throwing knives and doing that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, of course the movie knows this, because there are some points where basically their skill sets are completely useless and they don't know how to get out of situations. They actually have to think things through, which is actually quite refreshing when you think about it, because these are more like human people. Are there any other types of people? But anyways, and they actually have to figure out and use their brain a little bit to get out of uncomfortable situations, let's say that. Something that I liked about this movie is the new introduction of Sentry. Actually, let's go into a bit of spoilers about that guy. This movie is really good when it comes to talking about mental illnesses and mental health issues just in general. Sentry is the perfect character for that. I knew nothing about him from the comics, but I read something to get me like up to speed basically, so that I would understand him a little bit more. He's definitely one of the most powerful basically beings in the MCU right now, not counting the weird like thing that they created in Secret Invasion. Let's forget about that. That was really bad. No, this is like a superhero that kind of resembles Homelander. He's got a bit of a god complex to him, mostly because he's got an incredible amount of self-esteem issues. And the thing I loved honestly about him is that he's 100% like the metaphor for being bipolar, or sometimes apparently schizophrenic as well. But within this film and within the comics, it's not really clear exactly what they have, but they basically talk about this kind of stuff very broadly. But in the film, they do it really well. You can tell that he's talking about this darkness within him that he doesn't know how to control, and he has these mood swings which are so interesting and that I really felt attached to, mostly because I'm bipolar as well. So I was sitting there being like, I actually relate to this guy. I relate to this villain, and it made me sad to look at him. One of his powers is when he touches people, he can basically like almost conjure your worst memories and get you stuck in them as well. And I love the idea that sometimes he gets stuck himself in these memories. And I don't know, it's really funny, the idea that Sentry and the Void is basically the dark side of Sentry. It's a whole new basically personality that takes over, and it's basically when he's completely given up and he's caught under the weight of depression. He doesn't really control anything of his life, so he has a very nihilistic and incredibly negative view of humankind and everyone around him. So he'd rather turn everything to shit, into shadow, and kill everyone because nothing matters at the end of the day. I love the way that they portrayed the Void in this film. The shadow with these like two bright dots just for eyes, incredible. It was kind of like the White Vision as well. It felt very unhuman, but in a very realistic way. It didn't really feel like something alien, something like a CGI monster that we needed to fight. It felt like something that would come out at night and hurt you. Like, it felt like those kind of like sleep paralysis monsters that you would see like in your dreams. They really really handled quite well the CGI work in this film. And there is a scene, for example, when they're fighting Sentry, and you could tell that he's 100% indestructible, and he's actually, you can see that he's 100% bored during that scene. And it's funny because that scene looked a bit clunky, but I think it was done on purpose, mostly because you have to interact people who have basically human-like powers with someone who has superhuman, almost godlike powers. So it's kind of like The Boys at the end of the day. When the people are trying to fight Homelander, they can barely make him lose his breath. And I think this was what this scene was actually about. Not necessarily about being realistic, but about creating this weird feeling of you can literally not touch him. It's impossible. And I feel like this movie rushes a little bit too much into the third act, but at the same time, the runtime goes so smoothly. Like, you spend so much time with these people kind of like being depressed, and it's not really that they don't want to be part of a team. It's like almost they feel like they don't deserve to be part of a team because they've always been so alienated and alone. So you actually want them to become a team just so that they can find some kind of definition of family at the end of the day, which is something that was not true about the Avengers at all. The Avengers was a very different dynamic where these people would come together to fight something that no one could actually fight by themselves. While the Thunderbolts and the new Avengers, because this is actually the title of the movie, and I really hope that they change it because it would be really, really funny. I would actually love to have the Blu-ray with the title The New Avengers on it instead of Thunderbolts. I feel like it would be a really interesting, cool thing to have. But just to say that they really did that well. They handled it really, really well. The plot twist that was going to happen, and the idea also that these people belong together because they have nothing else. Like, there are some really tearjerker scenes with Yelena, who is like saying that she has no one, she has nothing to live for, nothing to look forward to, and she doesn't really want to keep going with her life. So she needs not only a mission, but like people around her, basically. And I feel like this is a movie that is going to work really well with like MCU fans and people just in general because of the internet generation. Like, we live in a time where even though we're so connected to everyone, we also feel alone most of the time, and this movie is going to resonate with a lot of people as well just because of that. I'm trying to think of negative things to say about this film. I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 score on Letterboxd because I didn't want to give it a perfect score because, as I said, like, structure wise, this movie is like going a bit too fast from the first act to the last act. Basically, there is not actually that much happening if you look at the movie by beat basis because it is so focused on the characters themselves, and there are some characters who get absolutely almost nothing to do. Like Bucky Barnes, I don't think he gets anything interesting to do. For example, as I said, he's the congressman for some kind of state, I don't even remember which one, and you can see that people around him as well, the real politicians, they're clearly saying like, why are you here? Like, it makes no sense. They're kind of like voicing what the audience thinks as well, and he doesn't seem to know why he's there either. It really feels like they forced him to that position, which could be something interesting if we had a scene with another character from the MCU previously saying you should do that because it would give us like some influence in the government, which we don't have right now, and him sacrificing basically his superhero life to do that would be way more interesting than just not really giving us his motivations at all. And at the end of the day, also, he doesn't get anything new to do when it comes to his character. We don't really know what he's been doing in the last few years as well. Same thing goes with Ghost as well, to be honest. A bit sad when it comes to Ghost because literally no one is gonna remember her, because who cares about Ant-Man and the Wasp, especially when the third one was so incredibly bad, right? And if you look at the other characters, I mean, as I said, US Agent, we get a little bit of a backstory about his family and the fact that he's really sad, but we still don't get to relate to him at all because for me, he's just a sociopath. He keeps like talking about how he's such a good military man and he's achieved so many things, but I don't care. You literally killed someone while wearing the mantle of Captain America, and that kind of cancels everything out. Like, you're just a military man. Like, it's really funny that he thinks so highly of himself compared to all of the other ones, and he calls them mercenaries. Well, he's definitely not better than them at all. It's kind of like that sheriff thing. Like, when someone gives you the badge, you kind of think that you can do whatever you want because the law is on your side, but at the end of the day, you could be like the most disgusting person on ever with a badge. Like, it doesn't make you a good person at the end of the day. I actually really like the character of Valentina, the way that she was trying like basically to destroy all the evidence. It's really topical as well of things that are happening right now, of politicians being accused of so many different things and kind of denying at all times, something that Trump does, for example, on a daily basis almost. So I was sitting there being like, this is actually quite cool, but also the idea that she's smart enough to stay around until the end of the movie and to trick the Thunderbolts into basically becoming the new Avengers. That was really, really cool. I thought it was actually quite clever. A bit of a plot convenience, of course, because there was so much distraction around them. Was the press just waiting around the corner for that press release? It was a bit weird, I will agree to that, but the entire concept was really well done, because I hate it when they introduce characters that are actually so powerful in the MCU politics-wise, and they just dispose of them in one film. When it comes to the MCU, we have a post-credit scene that actually links us to the Fantastic Four, which we're going to be getting in a couple of weeks as well, and I'm really excited to see it. And when it comes to the future of the MCU, Thunderbolts feels like a transition movie, because it is using characters that we already know, and it's kind of like that bargain bin thing where they're like grasping for anything that is relevant to make a movie out of it from the previous phases, because they're so desperate. It seems like they don't know how to create original things anymore, but this time it actually worked out. And I love the concept of this team of new Avengers fighting basically publicly against Sam Wilson's Avengers. That is really, really interesting in my opinion, and it's definitely gonna be quite something when it comes to the new Avengers movies in the future. Who is gonna be the leader of protecting Earth, especially now that Fantastic Four are gonna be coming? I feel like there is gonna be a lot of fights in between Fantastic Four, the Avengers, who gets to be the leader and actually command this entire big team, especially when you're fighting against galactic forces, right? That is going to be quite interesting. But anyways, those are my thoughts for the Thunderbolts movie. Did you enjoy it? What did you think of it? Did you like the tone of it, or it didn't really work out for you? I think it was the perfect mix in between depressive and incredibly entertaining. Having said that, if you like this video, as usual, here at the bottom I'm gonna be putting all of the other MCU stuff that I've talked about. I think I've done most of them besides maybe I Am Groot and What If Season 2, because I was not really interested in those and I was gonna be ranting throughout the entire video. And here's the video that I'm gonna be showing you in the next few weeks. Don't forget to smash that like button. Every single time that you do that, you make sure that you slap another Avengers poster on a new product.
Can I count on you?
For example, we've seen the post-credit scenes, the cereal boxes, right? What other products do you think the Avengers should start marketing? Would it be fun to market cars? Would it be fun to market something stupid like Kool-Aid, or like a Red Guardian Coca-Cola cherry flavor? That would be really fun. Would you like to see that as a fun like mid-credit scene in the future? Like this video and let me know. Anyways, I'm Patrick and this is Torn Apart.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da.